Okay, thank you, Tammy. Yes, my name is John Billings. Beside me is Amelia Crotwell. We'd like to welcome you to the next series of the KBA Financial Wellness program. And today we're going to discuss kind of pre-retirement and post-retirement financial strategies for attorneys. So we kind of want to get going here. As you can see, we have our happy attorney that's in retirement. And that's where we're trying to get you to, or where you are today, or where you are going forward in the future. So next slide. And this is not sliding. Is it working? The error. Sorry, please bear. Technical difficulties here. Yeah, we just some usual disclaimer language that attorneys are probably well too familiar with. And moving on into our program. So Amelia and I have kind of want to provide a little roadmap, kind of that starts with kind of thinking about, as we go through this today, what are your needs in your life? What are your wants in your life? As you either prepare for retirement or as you move into retirement or are in retirement. So we're going to talk about a little bit of a brief introduction. Then we'll move into pre-retirement financial strategies, then post-retirement financial strategies, and then we'll conclude. And we're going to save a little bit of time at the end for any questions that come into the queue. So as we begin, so we have a set of unique financial challenges in today's world, considering especially the baby boomer generation, which is the years of year of birth from 1946 to 1964 per the U.S. Census Bureau. Last year, a recent Forbes magazine article said that this demographic group is 73 million people strong, with the oldest boomers just turning 75. And since 2010, about 10,000 of them have turned 65 per day, and they will all cross that age threshold by 2030. So, and then from that, about a quarter of attorneys could be baby boomers navigating retirement age by that 2030 age. So it's at the peak of the silver or gray tsunami that we're moving into. So with that said, we need to get some type of pre-retirement and post-retirement effective financial planning, and really kind of look at, again, your needs, your wants, and what's that next step in your life that you're looking to get to. So we move into pre-retirement. So as you can see, we've got quite a bit of material. A lot of the slides will have a lot of bullet points. The ones that are highlighted are the ones that Amelia and I are going to touch on, or we could be here for hours. So we want to try to be brief with this material. So again, moving into the pre-retirement. So some things to consider are maximizing retirement contributions. And as you can see, many of you are familiar with some of the types of contributions, your 401ks or 401(b) and your employee matching. But talking about a few of these, a backdoor Roth IRA, if your income exceeds, if your income exceeds the income limit for making direct Roth IRA contributions, you should consider a backdoor Roth IRA. This strategy involves making a non-deductible contribution to a traditional IRA, which your traditional IRA has no income limits. So you've got to look where you are on your income scale and then convert it to a Roth IRA. So in a Roth IRA, you have no required minimum distributions. There's no age limit to contribute to it, and there's no taxes for your beneficiaries. So they can withdraw tax-free after your passing. Let's see. Let's keep moving back on me. Okay, moving on to the catch-up contributions. So once you reach the age 50, you should take advantage of catch-up contributions in your retirement accounts, such as an additional 6,500 in a 401k or an extra 1,000 in an IRA to accelerate your retirement savings. And if you've heard in the Secure Act 2.0 that was signed into law at the end of 2022, starting in 2024, your catch-up contribution amount will now be indexed for inflation, which is a hot topic as we live today, and will increase more in line with the consumer price index. Moving on to tax-efficient withdrawal planning. So as you approach that retirement age, plan for tax-efficient withdrawal strategies to minimize taxes on your retirement income, such as managing withdrawals from taxable, tax-deferred, and tax-free accounts.
That's just to mention, that's where your Roth IRA comes in, right?
Correct.
So if you've got a nice Roth IRA that you've been able to build through those backdoor contributions, that's a tax-free source of money for you in later years.
That's correct. Thank you, Amelia. And by the way, on that backdoor Roth IRA, if you do convert, it is permanent. So you cannot move it back and forth. Once it's there, it's there. So moving on to our second point in pre-retirement, or excuse me, third point in pre-retirement, diversifying your investments. So you've got a range. Can you move it for me, Tim? There we go. Thank you. So we have such things as your types of asset classes, your stocks, your international investments, your bonds, your real estate. What you want to kind of consider on your risk tolerance is to align your investment portfolio with your risk tolerance. So how much are you wanting to put in the market, or how safe do you want to put it in the market, such as your bonds, as opposed to your securities, et cetera. So a balanced asset allocation should reflect your ability and willingness to take on risk. And of course, as you move into retirement, that would be starting to be a little bit more conservative. Moving on to your tax efficient investing, you should consider tax efficient investment strategies. For example, placing tax inefficient assets like taxable bonds in tax advantaged accounts, and use tax efficient investments in taxable accounts. And of course, speaking a little bit more on the Roth IRAs, you can diversify your tax treatment by contributing to both traditional and Roth IRAs. Distributions from traditional IRAs are generally taxable, while Roth IRA withdrawals are tax-free, as I mentioned earlier. And all this can kind of start to become very convoluted with all the different types of investments out there. So always, of course, consult a financial advisor and work with one that can provide you guidance on constructing a diversified investment portfolio, again, specific to your financial goals. Everyone's goals are going to be different. Your risk tolerances are going to be different, and your time horizon is going to be different.
I have a question already. Do you want to address it now, or do you want to wait? Is there a chart of income? Do you want to repeat it for them?
Yes, I've got that actually. Get back here. For the income limit?
Is there a chart of income limits on RA?
Yeah, for making direct Roth IRA contributions, the income limits, the Roth phase out ranges are for single, it's 138,000 to 153,000, and then married filing jointly, it's 218,000 to 228,000. So that's where that backdoor IRA comes in handy. So then you can contribute into a traditional, and then you convert over and get around that income limit. Okay, so moving to number 4, emergency fund in your pre-retirement strategy. First, you kind of want to decide on the ideal amount to have in your emergency fund. A common recommendation is to have 3 to 6 months of worth of living expenses saved, but the actual amount, of course, may vary based on your individual circumstances. So you want to determine that target amount. Next, you want to automate savings. So set up automatic transfers from your checking account to your emergency fund account each month. And this ensures you are consistently contributing to your fund. And next, windfalls and bonuses. So using windfalls and unexpected financial gains, such as bonuses or tax refunds, to boost your emergency fund. And this can help you reach your savings goals much quicker. And it also, one of the points I made a short note here that we're on loss of income insurance and disability, that is more sometimes offered through your employer, and loss of income is such as your AFLAC. So I'd made a point to bring that up while Amelia and I were going through this to define that a little bit better. Moving on to the fifth point in pre-retirement is to managing debt. So you want to take kind of a debt inventory. So it's going to be, we want to be positive when we look at the debt that each individual has accumulated. You want to do a comprehensive list of all your debts, and this is everything, including credit card balances, student loans, if they're out there, or maybe for a child or even a grandchild, mortgages, car loans, any outstanding loans. Record those balances, interest rates, and minimum monthly payments. So it's just to kind of, you got to face the music with the debt. I see that a lot of times that people don't want to see it out of mind, out of sight. So, or out of sight, out of mind. Let's see. So one way to tackle this is either called a debt snowfall or a debt avalanche. So this is kind of a debt repayment strategy that suits your preferences and financial situation. The debt snowball method focuses on paying off the smallest debts first, while the debt avalanche method targets the highest interest debts. So, of course, everything is pertinent to your situation. I've got a next point is the mortgage prepayment. Think about considering making extra mortgage payments, especially if you plan to retire with your mortgage not fully paid off. Reducing mortgage debt can improve your financial stability in retirement. Of course, many individuals, their home is their greatest or their best asset, and to move into retirement debt-free on that asset just provides your overall asset portfolio in a better situation. And you can take those mortgage payments now and put them into your emergency fund or into investments. Next, we have leverage windfalls. Again, I kind of mentioned sometimes the windfalls or bonuses. You can apply it to your emergency fund, or maybe we want to knock out debt first. So applying windfalls or lump sum payments, such as those tax refunds or bonuses to pay down debt. Windfalls can make a significant dent in your outstanding balances. And of course, the more debt-free you are, the more better situated you are for retirement. So moving on to the next slide in asset protection. This is where I will turn to Amelia to take the handoff.
My turn. All right. So Tennessee is pretty friendly for trusts. We're a friendly trust state. I think our legislature's done a pretty good job of making us competitive. There are people that form trusts in Tennessee from all over the country because we're pretty trust friendly. So there's two types of asset protection trusts that I want to mention here. One is the Tennessee Investment Services Trust, and that allows you to establish a trust, place your assets in it. Of course, not retirement funds, but other non-qualified assets would go into this type of trust. And after it's in there for at least 4 years, that's the statute of limitations on fraudulent transfers. So that would allow you to really protect those assets over the long term once they're in there. Creditors have about an 18-month time frame for challenging transfers to the trust if there is an outstanding creditor. So that's a pretty short time frame for them. And one of the catches is that you have to have a third party corporate type trustee that is a Tennessee trustee as part of that trust. So that is one of the, I guess, the safeguards that the legislature baked in. The other type of asset protection trust is a trust that I draft a lot for my clients, and that's what I would call a family asset protection trust, or sometimes Medicaid asset protection trust. And this is the type of trust that retirees will use, and a lot of times the primary asset going into it is their home, which is paid for or might still have a mortgage. But this type of, with this type of planning allows someone to think about how their long-term care is going to be paid for later on. It's an excellent option for people who cannot get long-term care insurance, either due to the cost of it or because they have a diagnosis already that might prevent their access to an insurance product to help pay for care long-term. So the asset protection trust allows the assets within the trust after a 5-year look back to be protected from the estate recovery process for TennCare. And this works in pretty much every state that I'm aware of. So that's trust in Tennessee. And then the other thing I want to call out on asset protection is taking advantage of tenancy by the entirety. So if you have an asset that's titled tenancy by the entirety, the debt of one spouse, sole debt of one spouse, the creditor of that debt cannot break the tenancy by the entirety and attach that asset. So Tennessee took that and built on it by allowing us to do something called the tenancy by the entirety trust. And so you can put your real estate, your bank accounts, your investment accounts, stocks and bonds and other things into the tenancy by the entirety trust and get the same protection on liquid assets as you would for real estate, and taking advantage of the tenancy by the entirety. Ready for the next slide. For estate planning, pre-retirement, I can't stress enough to you that if you don't have some super basic EP done, please schedule something for you like before the end of the year. Make it your goal to get powers of attorney in place for healthcare and for financial matters, and review your beneficiary designations, because these are so simple and easy to do. You can do your own power of attorney. There are not statutory, but there are forms available, in a lot of the Tennessee form books for this. It's not rocket science necessarily. You can do it. But if you become incapacitated and you don't have these basic documents in place, you're looking at a conservatorship, and you know what it's like to go to court and have your, all of your financial matters and your personal matters exposed, and subject to court decision making. So that's such an easy thing to do. All of us should have it. Everybody I meet over the age of 18 should have durable powers of attorney. Review your beneficiary designations, particularly on retirement accounts, because if your retirement account ends up going to your estate by default, it causes all kinds of problems with taxation, especially for your beneficiaries. So you want to make sure that you've got human beings with heartbeats as your designated beneficiaries or charities for your retirement accounts. And the nice thing about these is you can go online for most of these account custodians now, and you can set up your beneficiary designations online. How easy is that? So what is your excuse? Please do that for the people in your life that you love. On business succession, I will say that I have spent a lot of time, energy, and effort exploring this topic, and it's something that I'm extremely interested in. I've done a succession plan for my firm. It is in its 6.5 years right now, and is going well. I want to suggest that you would start at least 3 years before you want your retirement date set, because it takes about a year to get a plan in place. And that assumes you have the right people identified to carry out the plan. So you want to give yourself enough time to do that. And then for business succession planning, form a team. Don't try to do it on your own. Get a team together. The team that I used I used Sunny Scow to do all my legal work. I used Heather Martin CPA to do my accounting work. I worked with a retirement planner out of Ohio named Kevin Prather, who did like the big picture overall design of the plan for me. We brought in Mass Mutual, which were insurance experts, and putting all those great minds together in one room to figure out like what my goals are, you know, my timeline, what I want my firm to look like between now and then and after I'm gone. So valuable to have that expert advice. My financial advisor also played a role in that. Financial advisor kind of looked at my overall position where I was and said, okay, if you want to be successful with this, we need to look at, you know, where you're going to be between now and then, and you've got to, you know, make some changes in how you're living your life if you want to succeed in this way. So having that team is super important. I'll give you some more resources for this towards the end when we get to the resources section.
All right. Thank you, Amelia. Moving on to the next slide is maximizing tax efficiency. So a few of the points that we're speaking of is, again, we're back to the Roth conversions. It sounds like a broken record here of how much I discuss Roths, but they're a great investment and tax strategy on your long-term retirement plans. So with those conversions, convert some of those traditional retirement accounts assets to a Roth IRA. And this will generate immediate tax liability. So you will pay the tax man once you do that conversion, but those qualified withdrawals will be tax-free. Another tax efficient strategy is the health savings account, or HSA. You can contribute to an HSA if you have a high deductible health plan. So that is one caveat, but the contributions are tax deductible and qualified withdrawals for medical expenses are tax-free. And as well, many people don't realize that it's also, you can invest with it in the market. So it's an investment account that can continue to grow, and you can generate income off of your HSA that a lot of people just kind of look at it for medical expenses, but it can be another retirement strategy investment vehicle as you plan. As well, speaking of on the 529 plans, the college savings plans, so you can utilize now a 529 college savings plan to save for either your children or your grandchildren's education. And these plans offer tax advantages as tax-free withdrawals for qualified education expenses. And with the Secure Act 2.0 enactment, a beneficiary of a 529 can roll over up to $35,000 to a Roth IRA. So an annual amount based on current IRA contribution limit of that year is $6,500 for 2023, but the max that can be converted is $35,000 during their lifetime. So if they move on to a scholarship or other college funding or education expense funding, they can get ahead on their own retirement savings or investment savings with that Roth IRA conversion now being available.
Can I add a point on the Roth conversion? You know, I used to be in well, I'm still in private practice, but I used to be in a personal injury firm, and you know, we had our windfalls, and then we had our feast or famine, right? And if you're in that situation and you're having a year that's maybe not as terrific as a prior year, or you're expecting a really big windfall in the coming year, that would be a great time to sit back and before the end of the year and say, do I have some room in my current tax bracket to do a Roth conversion? Because my tax rate's going to be fairly low this year.
That's a good point. Yes. And also, before we move on to the post-retirement, I did want to bring up on spousal IRAs. As kind of an asset protection and another investment strategy. They provide retirement saving, or they protect retirement savings held in individual accounts. So it's a strategy that allows a working spouse to contribute to an IRA in the name of a non-working spouse with no income or very little income. So there's an exception to the provision that an individual must have earned income to contribute to an IRA. However, the working spouse's income must equal or exceed the total IRA contributions made on behalf of both spouses. So it's just another area in the quiver to consider on your retirement accounts. So that concludes the kind of the pre-retirement strategies, and we're going to move on into the post-retirement strategies. So we're going to start with, thank you, Tammy. So we've got to finding your sustainable withdrawal rate. And of course, that's kind of assessing your financial situation. And then one of those some of you may have heard a lot of is the 4% rule. So that suggests that you withdraw 4% of your initial retirement savings in the first year of retirement and adjust subsequent withdrawals for inflation. So for example, if you have 1 million saved, you could withdraw 40,000 in the first year. So then this kind of begin, and then from that, take that inflation indexed. But some people may need a little bit more, some people may need a little bit less. So again, assess where you are now that you've moved into that retirement phase. Second is, of course, taxes. Ben Franklin, death and taxes are inevitable. So, but consider the tax implications of your withdrawals. So diversifying your tax advantage accounts, of course, your traditional IRAs, your Roth IRAs, they can provide that tax efficient flexibility as opposed to those your tax withdrawals. And of course, have we moved on into the kind of your withdrawal rate and you get into your RMD stage, require minimum distributions for your traditional IRAs. The Secure Act has now bumped that up to 73 in 2023, and it'll be 75 for those in 2025. I believe that's right. So the longer retirement, but of course, always think of your required minimum distributions because that will be taxed as the ordinary income. And of course, you've got qualified charitable distributions that you can use to even lower your tax bill. So of course, that kind of leads on to continue on with your professional advisors. That's the key to successful retirement. It's all a team effort. As Amelia said, she had a financial advisor and a CPA and an attorney and even a kind of an insurance kind of piece as well. It's everybody's got to be in and be ready, success for you. So don't try to think you can do it on your own. So moving on to the second slide in post-retirement, I believe Amelia will discuss Social Security optimization.
I have healthcare planning, and I think Social Security comes next, maybe.
Or healthcare. Excuse me.
Yeah,
healthcare. Sorry, planning. Looking at the next slide.
So I practice a lot in Medicare. Medicare enrollment happens when you turn 65. It's pretty automatic. If you've been a worker and you paid in payroll taxes and self-employment taxes. So you can enroll 3 months before your 65th birthday, during the month of your 65th birthday, or 3 months after your 65th birthday. I would say, please start early because if you wait until the month of your 65th birthday, you won't actually have Medicare coverage until the following month because it takes them about 3 to 4 weeks to process your application. So start early, have it in place before your other coverage ends, and then you won't have any gaps in coverage, which is a good thing. I like original Medicare. Not a fan of Advantage plans. I'll talk a little more about those in a minute, but I like original Medicare. Number one, you can see any doctor that takes Medicare anywhere. So that could be at the Cleveland Clinic or at Johns Hopkins, even if you're in Tennessee. There is no network that you have to work within. You don't have to have pre-approval to see a specialist. And that gives you a lot of freedom, a lot of control, and and independence in making a lot of your healthcare decisions. I value that tremendously. I am not a fan of healthcare that's doled out and managed and stingy. So stick with original Medicare. It's slightly more expensive. And if you don't stick with it initially, it's really hard to go back to. So be careful about that. When you're 65 and you're going on Medicare for the first time, you have no pre-existing condition, guaranteed issue, Medigap policy. And this is the policy that you buy independently of Medicare that covers what Medicare doesn't cover. So Medicare is going to cover 80%. Then there's going to be this 20% out of pocket that Medicare doesn't cover. And that Medigap policy fills that gap. That's why they call it a Medigap policy. And then the last piece to the puzzle is you're going to have a Part D prescription drug plan to cover your prescription drugs, because traditional original Medicare does not cover any prescription drug plans. So stick with original Medicare, sign up well before the month that you turn 65, and get your Medigap policy immediately as a guaranteed issue. There's no underwriting. They can't refuse you, and there's no pre-existing condition limitations. Other than Medicare, let's talk about long-term care insurance. I bought long-term care insurance in my late 40s. I see so many people who wish they had bought it but didn't. And now they're in a crisis, and they're absolutely terrified that the cost of long-term care is going to bankrupt them. Their kids are never going to have an inheritance, or their spouse is going to have to be a pauper because they didn't plan. So get your long-term care insurance early, apply before you think you really should. So in your late 40s, your early to mid 50s, it's a perfect time to do that. And research the company that you're applying with. Make sure that they have good, stable finances, that they're financially sound. Look at how often they've raised rates on their policy holders. Look at their reputation for paying claims. And then you're welcome to contact me if you want any of my thoughts about that. But you want to do it before you have a diagnosis. If you go to the doctor and you say, I have memory problems, or I have tremors, and I'm not sure what it is, and that's in your medical record, and then you go and apply for long-term care insurance, you're going to be denied. And even if there's really not anything wrong with you, you're going to be denied. And then you're going to be like, oh, wow, I can't get it. What are my other options? And that's when you talk about a Medicaid family asset protection trust. But, that's why delaying is not a good idea. You really want to get that long-term care insurance application and approval before you have a problem. So take that to heart. 1 out of 2 people use their long-term care insurance. It's rarely wasted. Yes, it's expensive, and yes, it's an investment, but it also gives you tremendous peace of mind. And you don't have to buy a luxury policy. You can buy, a Toyota Corolla policy that when you look at, I'm going to have X dollars from Social Security, I'm going to have X dollars from my traditional IRA, I'm going to have X dollars from my Roth IRA, I'm going to have my emergency fund. Oh, okay. So if care costs $9,000 a month, which it does right now, if my care is going to cost $9,000 a month, and I've got $3,500 or $4,500 and other income resources, I don't need $9,000 a month in coverage. I only need $5,000 a month in coverage. And so look at that. You definitely want to put in a cost of living adjustment. You pay extra for that, but that's one of the riders or extras on your policy that you definitely want to include. And go ahead.
Still on long-term care?
Yes. Okay. If you're married, you can sometimes get a spousal discount if you both apply with the same company and have kind of it's not a joint policy, but you can get, up to 30% off sometimes on those premiums.
And to piggyback on that, something else to consider too is with the Secure Act 2.0, you now, starting in 2026, up to $2,500 per year can be withdrawn penalty-free from your retirement accounts to pay for long-term care insurance. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're self-employed, you can deduct those if you itemize.
Mm-hmm.
So, If I'm going to harp again on the healthcare documents. So there are, disadvantages of Medicare Advantage plans. I got off track. I don't like them at all. Only get them if you're super healthy and you never intend to use medical care. They are not good at paying claims. There have been a number of articles in the New York Times in the last year about a systematic denial of claims by insurance companies that operate under Medicare Advantage. And that'll cause you to have to appeal. And even on appeal, people are not getting approved. Your health insurance should work for you. You shouldn't have to appeal seeing a doctor or having a procedure done every time it comes up. So Advantage plans are managed care. The government pays the company a certain amount of money to administer the program, and the company gets to keep all the profits that they can glean from being stingy. So why would you subject yourself to that? Medicare Advantage salespeople get a big bonus every time they sell one of those, so they're going to push them. There are some bells and whistles that the Advantage plans have that traditional original Medicare doesn't have, like vision, dental, some hearing aids, transportation, even gift certificates for food and other things. Don't be taken in by those gimmicks. Stick with your original Medicare. And then if you are for Medicaid planning and healthcare planning, if you can't afford long-term care insurance, or maybe you're land rich and cash poor, and you just think, I can't sustain these premiums long-term and have enough money to sustain my retirement, look at a Medicaid asset protection trust for that family farm or that house or that piece of land that's valuable, or for appreciated stock or whatever it might be. Because you can, after it's established for 5 years, you can avail yourself of the system of TennCare, which can help pay for care in lots of different settings. It's just like tax planning. You become an informed, activated consumer of healthcare, and you're getting the best bargain out there that's available to you.
We have a question about Medicare enrollment. Do you have to enroll in Medicare if you're still employed with employer-provided health insurance?
It depends on your employer plan. So you want to talk with your HR department and look at your plan document. Some companies require that when you're eligible for Medicare that you enroll, and other companies do not require that. If your company does not require that, then you can stay on your company employer-sponsored plan. And you would have the same benefits of a guaranteed issue policy at a later date. Let's say you didn't retire until you were 70, and if you let go your employer-sponsored plan at that time, you would have the same guaranteed issue rights at age 70, leaving an employer-sponsored plan. So yes, you can stick with your employer-sponsored plan, and sometimes that's a great plan, and why not?
About the healthcare directives.
Did I not? Oh, sorry. I have one more thing for you on that one. Healthcare directives. So let's say that you want to do the bare minimum. You don't actually want to go talk to an attorney and have someone draw a basic estate plan for you, but you're like, yeah, I see the point that maybe I shouldn't. If I were in a car wreck today, who would be able to make healthcare decisions for me? I want to do at least something. If you go to Google or any search browser and you put in Tennessee Department of Health Advanced Care Plan, a PDF document will be easily available to you, and you can print that. At the very top of the page, it allows you to nominate healthcare agents to make decisions for you. There's 2 options for that, a primary and a contingent. It lets you make your end-of-life choices so that you're not stuck on life support for an extended period of time. On the next page, it allows you to set forth your wishes for your funeral and burial plan. and allows you to say what you want for organ donation. And that is so easy to do. Then you sign it. You don't even have to have it notarized. You can have it witnessed by two people. One of them can be one of people named in the document, and one can be an independent person, or you can have it witnessed by two independent people, or you can have it notarized. Super simple, free, 2-page form, no excuses. Please do it.
Thank you, Amelia. Moving on to the next slide, budgeting and lifestyle. So it says rerun your Monte Carlo. So we're not talking about going to the casino and putting some more bets down. Monte Carlo is a simulation that financial planners, financial advisors use to simulate your retirement probability. And it's a useful tool, either really pre-retirement and post-retirement. You kind of do this. We offer this simulation. It's worked well with my clients that are especially entering retirement, and they need to know budget, their goals, what their wants and needs are. You kind of put all this in, and you kind of put it and you feed the computer, and it pops out these probability percentages of, if you get something from an 80 to a 95% probability of success, then you're in a good shape. But as you start dwindling down in percentage success, then you need to reevaluate what are your wants and needs in retirement. And as I said, you can use this in pre-retirement to kind of already give you an idea of, if you need to make any changes now, let's do it now. And then you get in retirement, of course, life happens. There may be some other thing that comes up, a divorce, you dissolve your law firm now that you're retired, certain type of windfalls or bonuses that come in. So you're always needing to talk to your advisor, and I always suggest, even retirement, even 3 to 5 years, ask them to rerun it. And if there's been any changes, let's put it in there. But if you need a new car and you're 65 or 70, you can put that in there, and where you need to be financially to make that vehicle purchase, but then also stay on the same track of getting those wants and needs accomplished and those goals. You're moving into a new lifestyle. So those interests that you've been putting off for years of hard work, you may want to start doing a little more traveling now. I've had retirees that they're traveling at least once a month overseas, and they have put that in that budget, and we run that simulation on what's the probability? Are we still going to be in that 80 to 100 success rate? So I encourage you to embrace that Monte Carlo simulation, and your respected advisor, or we can do it to really kind of get an idea of what's going to happen, because that Monte Carlo takes the historical data of the markets, the societal conditions, and it really it's almost like an artificial intelligence kind of spits out, these are the simulations that will get you to where you need to be. Moving on to kind of going to that detailed retirement budget. Again, the budget and using that Monte Carlo will kind of really set you on that path of success. Starting just listing all your expected sources of income in retirement, such as your investments, your Social Security, that type of income that's coming in, especially in investment in like real estate or dividend income from securities again. And then list all your anticipated expenses and be thorough, including both fixed and variable. So variable, of course, would be if you're wanting to travel or wanting to get into some type of other interest or lifestyle change. So really be honest and put that budget and put that, be what you want to do in retirement. You may have that bucket list that's been simmering there for years. So now it's time to really bring it in, and let's put it all out there. And then so you, again, get the bucket list, you kind of find that meaning in your life, and you want to create meaningful experiences now that you're in retirement. And I thought of, some, retired attorneys, they may want to do some more pro bono volunteering, or they may want to write more. You kind of use your experience now to maybe be the next John Grisham, or you want to do some social commentary. So in retirement, I always say you kind of want to find what's going to bring you peace and satisfaction. Because that's really what retirement should be after years of practicing. Moving on to, that's the meaningful experiences. So I kind of moved into that. Fourth slide is talking about Social Security optimization.
Social Security, a couple of helpful hints for you here. For every year that you delay taking your retirement after you reach full retirement age, you're going to get an 8% increase. And so, given where we are in our interest rate environment right now, 8% doesn't sound like massively huge, but it's still really, I think, pretty terrific. And compared to where we've been in the past, it's wow, wonderful. So remember that if you can wait till age 70, and that's the least, that's the longest you can delay, you're going to get an extra 8% for every year past your full retirement age. Spouses over 62 can claim up to half of the worker's benefit if the worker's taking benefits too. So that could be a little extra source of income for you. And if the spouse is not full retirement age, it's going to be a reduced benefit. It won't be the full benefit. But if the spouse also works and has a work record, and the spouse's work record would give a higher amount, then you have to go with that amount. So this would be perfect for a traditional couple where maybe one spouse was the breadwinner and the other spouse stayed home, and they're both of approximately the same age. That's something to remember there. If you're divorced, for marriages that lasted over 10 years, either spouse can claim on their divorced spouse's work record, and it doesn't bring down or reduce the benefits for the other working spouse. So, and quite frankly, I don't think that the other spouse even has to know that you're doing that. You can just go to Social Security and show them your marriage certificate and divorce paperwork, and they can give you access to that benefit. And that can be great, particularly, again, in those situations where maybe your former spouse had great earnings and yours weren't so much, or vice versa, to help take care of a former spouse. And then when you're aging into retirement, let's say you're both of full retirement age, and one spouse passes away, the surviving spouse can claim on the deceased worker's work record and can get the additional amount if the deceased worker's retirement benefit is higher than the surviving spouse's. So essentially, after one spouse dies, the surviving spouse gets the higher benefit that existed within the marriage. So I think you should consult an expert when you're thinking about retirement. There's a Social Security app that I use in my practice. It's called the Social Security Optimizer, BOSS. It's in the App Store, Social Security Optimizer, BOSS. It's free. You can put in your variables right now, your age, and when you think you're going to retire, and it'll tell you how old you think you're going to live to, and it'll tell you what your total value of your Social Security benefit is. And that way you can kind of test, do I want to take it when I'm 67? Do I want to take it when I'm 70? What's the difference? And they have single and married couple scenarios in there. Very valuable.
Should you mention how to find your FRA?
Oh, yeah. So if you're not sure what your full retirement age is, just go to the Social Security website and ask them. You put in your birth date and it'll tell you the exact month that you can get your full retirement age.
Okay, moving on to back to review your investments. I can't harp on this enough. Don't set it and forget it. You really need to stay on top of your investments. Of course, we're all recognized going through COVID and the pandemic and investments, and inflation now, you need to really keep an idea, especially now you're in retirement. You've set your budget, and you need to look at all kind of what sources of kind of income that can be generated, and then how that's going to work within your budget, and are your investments generating the income that you need. So you start just list those investments that, kind of focus towards those that generate kind of dividend paying stocks, bonds. I'll mention annuities, but I want to discuss that in here a little bit later. Treasury bill ladders and other CD ladders or other income generating investments. They can provide that steady stream of income to cover those living expenses. So those are just others to kind of keep in mind. Next, you want to put a drawdown strategy. What pot of money do you need to pull out from those buckets? So that how much will you withdraw each year to meet your expenses and ensure your investments can support that withdrawal rate? And this is where, again, keep in mind your RMD, your required minimum distribution from those investment accounts or retirement accounts, and your age. And one thing to note, that previously, before the Secure Act 2.0, so the Secure Act 2.0 had just a wealth of information and updates and kind of moving things forward on the retirement crisis. Back in the 50s or 40s, the retirement age, sorry to bring this back up, but I wanted to make a point of the crisis that we've been. The average life expectancy was 58 in 1935 when Social Security was established, and now it's shifted to it's almost 80 years old. And a lot of people that it went from the employer pensions to now defined employer contribution plans. And a lot of people are not saving enough. So that's where the drawdown strategy and the RMD and now the Secure Act 2.0 has made it available to allow you to save more and encourage you to save more in this retirement stage. And as I was mentioning, in Secure Act 2.0, previously only pre-tax contributions will be eligible for RMDs. So before, your Roth funds, which is your after-tax investment earnings, was accumulated with it to determine that RMD. Now that's taken out. So that gives you a little bit more. This RMD can be sitting there generating income and growing, and it can be tax-free withdrawal, and it's not going to be coming out or excuse me, counted in the pot of money as you draw down. So that's just another idea to, again, maybe consider those Roth investment retirement accounts. Also, if you do not take your RMD, the government is now, instead of taking half of the fund, half of that distribution, they've moved it down to 25%. So it was at 50% if you didn't take your RMD for the year, and even 10% if the shortfall is corrected in a timely manner. So they want that tax money, but they don't want to penalize you if you miscalculate or if you didn't take it. They want to encourage more people to take out, because that's when they get their tax paid. So moving on to the pros and cons of annuities. You probably hear there's a lot of annuity commercials out there and marketing for it. I'm just going to mention that the pros of annuities, they can a guaranteed stream of income for life. So you always kind of explore whether incorporating an annuity into your retirement strategy makes sense for you. But what we encounter a lot is we generally are not a fan of annuities. And I hope not to offend anyone in the audience that's someone that sells annuities or is in the annuity business, but a lot of times they have high fees, lockup periods where you can't withdraw, termination expenses. And a lot of times, if we have clients, we say we can normally produce a certain return with a more favorable risk profile in a balanced portfolio. And you have a lot more flexibility, and you don't have all those expenses tied into it and lockup periods. And if we see an opportunity to unwind an annuity position with zero or limited expenses, then we generally recommend to have that and have the proceeds transferred into that investment account, so that, again, flexibility is always key in retirement. Moving on to the estate and legacy planning.
This is my section again. So Tennessee has the Tennessee by the Entirety Trust, which I already spoke about, but there's also a community property trust in Tennessee. So community property trusts allow the trust assets within the trust to get a full stepped up basis at the death of the first spouse. So this is for married couples. If you have highly appreciated stock or farmland or something else like that that you'd like to sell at some point, a community property trust can be a terrific option. When you're doing your estate planning, you really need to be careful about who you're choosing to be your trustee or your personal representative. You want to think about the job that they have to do, the record keeping, the financial piece, all the responsibilities that are involved, and you want to choose the best person for that role. And who can handle it, who can say no to other family members and draw the line. And don't forget that there are corporate or professional trustees or personal representatives available to help if your particular list is kind of short. I want to speak particularly to digital estate planning. A lot of us have digital accounts now. We have Facebook or Instagram or Google, and we have laptops with stuff on it. We have all kinds of things, that cryptocurrency, loyalty program benefits like air miles, domain names, blogs. So all of these are digital assets, and Tennessee has passed the Refined Uniform Fiduciary Access to Digital Assets Act in 2018. And it allows the conservator, power of attorney, personal representative, or trustee to access digital assets. But you need to call those things out in your paperwork and your documents, so that the fiduciary that's presenting that document to, for example, Google, has all of the information in there to allow for that. So, when you're thinking about your planning, make sure that you've got digital assets as one of those categories. Whoever you're doing business with probably has some kind of legacy option available. So Google does, Apple does, Facebook does. So like doing your beneficiary designations on your IRAs, you can establish legacy contacts for these accounts that either allow them to access and preserve or allow them to delete. Sometimes there's sensitive information there that you don't want anybody else to see. And this allows your personal representative or your trustee to go in and delete or destroy digital assets. So look for those things. Apple also has that for your phone. So you want to make sure that you get that, and that you keep a list, a digital inventory of what you have, who manages it, and whether you set up some type of legacy option for it.
Hey, John, we had a question about the RMDs. With regard to failing to timely do your RMDs, in your experience, how long is the grace period to correct it before the IRS will apply the penalty?
It depends on the situation. Sometimes I wouldn't really say it depends on what the reason is given. And of course, you're dealing with the IRS. So it depends on the circumstances. Did you just start your RMD, or have you been taking it and then you just didn't take it, or you just forgot, or if there's some was there a health issue? Was there some type of lifestyle change, something that happened? It's really case by case. I would not say I've seen it one way or the other, like a hard stop, a hard, 6 months you didn't take it after the next year. I think they really kind of look at what that situation is for that individual. That's a great question, though. But again, it's the IRS that you're dealing with, so be advised. So we're kind of moving into kind of nearing the end in the post-retirement, and we've kind of harped on, continue to stay on top of your investments, your budget, stay in touch with your advisors. And so at the end of the day, you kind of want to be stay informed. So we've, kind of put a list there of just some, staying informed of the financial markets, kind of using various financial, legal, those economic matters that are a crucial part of that post-retirement financial planning for you guys. So just like what are those economic trends, how those affect your investments, so you can make informed decisions about your portfolios. So I tend to watch, Bloomberg Channel, Wall Street Journals are great. You kind of get inside what the market is doing. I don't know what, Amelia, if you've got any, there's some legal and financial publications, subscribe to those relevant newsletters and websites to receive regular updates into current developments. We publish a quarterly newsletter. Amelia's firm does quarterly as well, so that you can subscribe and you can stay on top of legal, economic, market trends. Do you have any other?
I have a few little helpful nuggets. If you have questions about Medicare, there's CMA, Center for Medicare Advocacy, and it is a nonprofit law firm that has tons and tons of information about Medicare in reasonably accessible format. So I really like CMA, not CMS, but CMA. There's an app called What's Covered, which is a Medicare app that you can download, have on your phone, and you can just go right in there and type in whatever procedure you're looking for, and it'll tell you if original Medicare covers it. And then if you're 50 or older, get sign up for AARP. It's $12 a year. That's nothing, right? And you can get an online or print membership, but you're going to get like AARP bulletin that comes out monthly is just full of such a wealth of basic news that affects people that are retiring. You get all of that for $12 a month. What can you do? SSA has a publication